Hi, everybody. I'm Dolly Josette, Director of Somatic Arts and Education, and I'm also a certified sexological body worker. So today I have one of my wonderful teachers, Deej, and he is going to tell us about his new course, Embodied Counseling. And he's going to go through who should do it, why you should do it, how it supplements your already amazing practice, or why it might be a good first start to your practice. Deej is an international educator, practitioner, and an embodiment specialist. He brought sexological bodywork training here to Los Angeles for the first time, along with Uma and Joseph Kramer. And I'm delighted that he's going to return in the upcoming year. So Deej, before we get started, can we just do a little itty bitty embodiment practice so I can land? I'm a little nervous, I don't know why.
Sure, how about we just take a moment to feel for what's under your feet. And if you're watching the video, how about you do it along with us? So feeling for what's under your feet. Might be texture, might be temperature, other sensations. And then shifting your focus to feel for what's under your sit bones. Might notice pressure there as well. So feeling for is a key embodiment tool. It means we're bringing our awareness into something which exists in the present moment. So it doesn't matter if you actually feel something or not, it's the feeling for that's useful. Let's feel for something a little less tangible, but still in the physiological world. Let's feel for gravity. And maybe feeling for your heartbeat. Mine's a little elevated. But if you don't notice your heartbeat, if you can't actually feel it in the moment, that's useful too. It's the feeling for it that brings your awareness into the present moment. How about we feel for the movement that the breath is creating through the body. I'm getting a little bit curious about what else you're experiencing through the body right now.
I'm feeling a little bit of weight in my sit bones, a little more landed, really grounded.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. How about shaking that off a little bit? So where should we start? Maybe we started, but where are our words going to take us?
Well, you know what? Something that I really want to emphasize is because I led with the fact that you brought sexological body work here. I want you to explain embodied counseling and who it's for, because I know when you and I chatted about it, it's not necessarily just for people who do any hands-on and as it relates to sex education.
Yeah.
So just an overarching of embodied counseling and what it is and who it's for.
Sure. So many years ago, I was a psychotherapist, and then I went to a body electric workshop and did a weekend workshop, another process that Joseph Kramer created, and I had a body epiphany. So the experience really brought my awareness crashing into my body and changed how I am in my body and what I was doing in the world. But at that point, it became really important to me to start to bring bring touch and to use touch and embodiment as a way of helping people. So I quit psychotherapy because as a psychotherapist, I had a code of practice that didn't allow touch. So I quit and started working in different somatic fields and did a range of things. And then over a number of years, along with some other people, I helped co-create the Somatic Sex Educators Association of Australasia, which had another code of practice which did include touch. And so then I had a clearly delineated code of practice again, and then I felt more comfortable because my clients knew the scope of work they were contracted into, and I felt comfortable bringing my counselling background into my work. But I was much more somatic now, and so I started working in a far more embodied way. And then I noticed that so that was working for me. But then I noticed that because I was working with a whole lot of practitioners of different descriptions, massage therapists and counselors and psychotherapists and yoga people and somatic sex educators and sexological body workers and tantra people and people who work with shamanism and a whole bunch of different people. And what I noticed was that practitioners who are working through the body are really, really great, really, really competent at supporting their clients' emotional aspect because it is in the body, and because people who work through the body know how to hold space and pay attention and be curious about what's there and how to allow what's there to be there. And so I noticed that they were really great at supporting the client's emotional aspect. But the ones who didn't have a formal counselling or psychotherapy background or qualification or training often didn't think they were. Yeah, they lacked the confidence to feel that they could support their clients with what they're feeling emotionally. And so I thought, well, that's interesting. I think you're really great at it. You don't think you're really great at it. Maybe I can put together something that can bridge this gap and give you some of the real basics of psychotherapeutic theory, you know, and the range of the way that psychotherapy and counselling shows up on the planet. And there's lots and lots of different approaches, and then give you some really effective and useful skills so that you feel more informed and more competent to do what you're already doing well even better. And so then I started to backward engineer what I was doing and look for what was really transferable. And there were some really sort of foundational aspects, I think, and some very effective aspects that are reasonably easy to transfer. And so that's what the 9-week course is about.
So it's 9 weeks, and how is it broken down?
So it's in 4 units, and each of the 4 units is in 2 parts. So one part is embodiment practice. It's doing various somatic practices. So there's a lot of doing involved in the course. And the second part of each unit is the information piece. So going into the content in different ways. So the first piece is embodiment coaching. So ways to support yourself and your clients to become more embodied, from people who don't experience themselves as embodied at all, through to people who've been working with embodiment for a long time. So what are the ways we coach people to further their sense of their own embodiment, and what's some of the background behind that? And then the information piece for the first unit is I give an overview of the different approaches to helping professions and psychotherapy leading up to what I'm arguing is the 4th major force in psychotherapy, the somatic approaches. If the sort of Freudian psychodynamic approaches were the first force, and the cognitive behavioral approaches were the second, and then the existential humanistic ways of working were the third, I think there's a lot of argument for working through the body and somatic approaches becoming the 4th important force in psychotherapy. So that's the first unit.
Yeah, it makes the huge difference. And even if I'm working with my own clients, and if they're the kinds of people who want so much information and they want to stay in the head, they can easily pull me into their route, into their world. And then I'll say, wait a minute, what's happening here? And then we just check back into the body, and then we can redirect, and then what becomes available is so much better.
Yeah. We can get so lost in the narrative, and I think the world gets lost in the narrative, and it's important to discuss and talk about things and think about things, but when that isn't grounded into the actual living experience through the body, then it can go anywhere. It can go, it's endless, it's infinite, and that's the wonderful capacity of the mind and a storytelling capacity. It's infinite, but the body is here and now in the physical moment, so it brings that infinite range of possibility, into actually what's here, what's something we can work with right here and now.
Yeah, and where the healing can take place, because the narrative can sometimes be a detour just to stay away from that. So
the narrative can be useful, it can be a detour, it can reinforce whatever, where you're stuck, or whatever it is you're trying to move on from. So I think when you bring the body in to work with the narrative and the cognitive, then you've got both, wisdom and power going on.
Beautiful. So then what's the second section?
So the second one is two pieces. One of them is enhancing the qualities of effective practitioners, because all the research that has been done into the effectiveness of helping professions in psychotherapy, the overwhelming result of research into that is that the effectiveness is in the relationship between the practitioner and the client. And so how we are as practitioners, how we show up, and the qualities we show up with are really more important than our technologies, our theory, our approaches, the different things we might do there. So the second unit focuses on that. And then it adds the doing aspect by presenting the embodied counselling skills, and I'm presenting through the course, and there's 8 of them, I think. I haven't looked for a while, but I think it's 8. Yeah.
So then folks or students are meeting on Zoom, they have homework. How is the whole setup? How do people do this?
Yeah, so there's multiple avenues. So the material arrives in PDFs, and I've worked hard to make it both efficient for your time, easy to follow, and effective. So you open it and it says, do this, do this, do this, do this, and read this, read this, read this, contact classmates for this, watch the Zoom here. And so for each of right through the 9 weeks, you will be doing daily practice with yourself or with your classmates or with a volunteer or a friend in your area. It's nothing too challenging. It's sort of like we did at the beginning. Feel for this, feel for that. Have a go at doing this with your body. Have a go at doing that with your body. No touch is needed, and you can do almost all of the practices with other people via Zoom, so you don't have to have people right in your neighborhood. It works out, it's about 30 minutes to an hour a day of embodied practice that you do with yourself or a volunteer, different instructions for different things as we go. And then there's 2 textbooks, and there's different things to read, but the readings are guided. It says, read this paragraph, have a look at this chapter, and they guide a bit of our discussion. And we post on a Google group and discuss there. And then there are 7 Zoom classes. So over the 9 weeks, we meet 7 times via Zoom, and they've got different objectives. Some of them are me presenting information. Sometimes I'll present, and then the students go away and do some research together about something they're interested in, and then they present that at the following Zoom conference. So even though we're really spread out geographically and it is distance, it's a very embodied process, and it's very communal learning because we're interacting in lots of different ways.
That's wonderful. And I will attest to how organized you are and how efficient you are with time. So I really, really appreciate that about your teaching. But you also come with such big heart. So I just love that about you. So you are based in Australia, but there is a 3-day intensive, I believe, for this embodied counseling.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we cap the 9 weeks off with 3 days together in Los Angeles, and we go over the content again, but we do it all in a very embodied way. There's lots and lots of practice and building up the micro skills and processes, and then putting them together into a counseling session at the end of the process. And so it is an introductory certificate, so it's a 9-week process, and so I've called it an introductory certificate because 9 weeks isn't enough if you're not already a counsellor to call yourself a counsellor. But if you're working through the body in other ways, massage therapists, sexological body workers, tantra people, all sorts of people, it will make you much more competent and confident to work with the emotional aspect of what your clients are experiencing. If you're already a counsellor and psychotherapist, it will give you a lot of really valuable information and skills on how to work more somatically with your clients.
I mean, somatic is the buzzword. It's really starting to become so much more mainstream now. I saw it on a street corner as a
really?
to a new
yeah
I'm so excited that people are starting to use it a lot more.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing too from the students who did the sexological body work here in Los Angeles is their clients come to them with so much more than just work with my body. I mean, so many people are not even ready to get on the table because they're dealing with this big narrative or some other things. So in my mind, this really gives an answer to how to deal and hold the space to be able to get people in this process of their healing.
Yeah, and in a dualistic world where we've got cultural habits around separating everything out into small observable pieces, which can be valuable, but it doesn't speak to the whole and the living person. Somatic work is really about engaging the full living person and shifting our focus away from what they call secondary consciousness, which is speaking or thinking about the process of living, into what they call primary consciousness, which is being fully present in the process of living. And when we're fully present, all those diverse aspects, the thinking, the speaking, the physical organism, the emotion, the eroticism, the subtle energetic aspects, the physical environment around us, the social environment around us, all and many, many other things, the way we make meaning in the world, all of these pieces can start to work coherently and cohesively and do what they're designed to do. I mean, the body is an incredible organism, and with all these systems in it that really, when we get out of its way, and when I say we get out of it, it's often the mind that needs to get out of the way, because the mind's got all sorts of judgments and evaluations about what the body's doing. Then the body's systems can do what they're designed to do, which is be forward moving, I think.
Very good. I'm trying to think of what other questions folks might have. Until I can think of one, let's just talk logistics about dates. So we are having you come, when we mean Los Angeles, you're going to actually be at my center, at the Somatic Arts and Education Center, which is redundant. Beach. I'm so excited to have you again. And I also want to clarify that you are the sole facilitator. So this is Deej, yes.
Yeah.
And then when folks sign up, they are working with their peers as opposed to their peers and with you.
Yes. Yeah. Working with together as a group, working with me, working with their classmates, and working with volunteers, friends, or people. And again, you're not going into deep psychological processes. You're supporting each other and experimenting with bringing awareness into the body and using the body in different ways.
So I have the dates of February 24th through April 29th. And it's the 27th and 28th and 29th of April when is the in-person embodiment intensive here in Redondo Beach.
Yep.
And 9 weeks for $2,200. That's a great deal. Deej, you're making it so affordable. Thank you. But I'm looking at my notes here, and we actually. So we made an early bird special that if people can commit before Christmas, it's $1,900.
Okay, great.
$1,900 for full payment before December 20th. So this will be your Christmas present to yourself. And the other note that we had discussed is if you have done a certificate training with Deej, with his Institute of Somatic Sexology within the last 2 years, you will receive an additional $200 discount. Am I saying all of this right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So we're really, really giving a huge discount for the early birds. So it's $300 off if you sign up before December 20th. Yeah. So we'll post all of this information. And how is the application process? Well, how does that go?
If they contact you or me, my email address is info@issaustralia.com. ISS for Institute of Somatic Sexology, so S for Sally, not F for Fred. Info@issaustralia.com, and I can send you the course description and application form, or Dolly can, and it's just to fill in the application form and send it back. And I was speaking to everybody originally, but now that we've made this video, we've covered the information that those Zoom calls were about. But if people do want to speak to me, please get in touch before December 18, because it's summer in Australia and I'm taking a couple of weeks summer vacation. But otherwise, send through the application form, ask me any questions that you might have in an email, arrange to speak if you think it's necessary, or if there's something you've got doubts about, and then contact Dolly to arrange payment. So what's your email address? How do they contact you?
They'll contact me at somaticartsandeducation@gmail.com. But I'll list all of that wherever we include this. I'll list both of our information.
Okay.
But when they contact you for application, they're getting a PDF of the course outline. And correct?
Yeah.
And they're getting...
There's an application form.
Okay. So they're getting the application form, and once they fill that out, then typically you forward it to me, and then I payment.
Yeah.
So they don't have to contact us separately. We'll funnel it through you.
Yeah.
For that.
Either or. Whoever gets the email will send the course description application form, and we'll forward it. Once I get the application forms come to me, and once I've got those, because really I want to make sure it's a great learning experience for everybody. So really I'll just be making sure that it's going to be useful for the people who are applying, and if we agree that it is, then I'll forward it to you to arrange payment.
So 9 weeks with Deej, and coming from Australia. It's going to be amazing here in Los Angeles. What else are we missing? Maybe the learning objectives.
I think, I wonder if that's just about enough. We've covered them a little bit. The learning objectives are looking at the practicing embodiment coaching skills, practicing embodied counselling skills, getting more information about psychotherapeutic theory and how the somatic approaches fit into that, finding actual practices and things you can do to enhance the qualities that make you an effective practitioner, getting a bit more geeky and getting into some of the neuroscience around, well, what even is the body and what is the mind, and you know, what is emotion and trauma and relationships, and how are all those, how do they work in the somatic way, because they do work in the somatic way, and how can we support our clients through this new science that's coming out about the neurobiology of emotion and relationships and trauma, and then putting it all together with 3 days of intensive practice in LA.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for making it super affordable, and I think it's a great adjunct to for Reiki specialists, for cranial sacral, for all these folks who have people coming in looking for help in all kinds of ways. And a good introduction too, if folks just even want to get to know you and your teaching style, right?
Yeah, exactly. That sort of sums up what I was aiming it at. But also, I guess, for counselors and psychotherapists who want some more capacity somatically, more embodiment.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so thanks for watching this video, and if you have any other questions, feel free to add them on the link to or the Facebook page that we're going to post this on, and we'll see if we can answer them. Deej, have a great summer in Australia.
Thank you. See you next year. Bye.
Okay, bye.